what if what our greatest talent as men was to learn how to process through things God's way
Yeah.
and try things God's way, even to the point of failure, realizing that failure is not the end of something.
Yeah.
Failure is the beginning of learning. And we're frustrated as men that are actually probably still boys in a lot of ways. And it looks at us and we're like, oh, I'm just so tired of failing.
Yeah.
And God's like, no, you're learning.
Yeah.
And I want you to get really good at this. And the only way you're going to get really good at this process is by going through it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And what if we could insulate that neural pathway to the greatest talent that any of us have is processing through things in a way to get from revelation to application and then to what I'll call probably incarnation. In other words, when we are actually living out the Word of God, the Word has become flesh in us.
Yeah. Hey guys, welcome back to the Rising Tide Family Podcast. Man, we are so glad you're here. So glad you joined us. My name's Austin Samuelson. I'm with my good friend, Matt Carpenter. Matt, how are you doing today?
Yeah, wonderful. We, I was just thinking, Austin, as we were getting started here, like how I feel so thankful that we get to do this together. And even by do this, I really don't even mean film a podcast because like it's not something that I set out like, oh man, I want to do a great podcast. It really all of this came out of a relationship that was first with the Lord, but then was like God, like moving His kingdom forward in relationships with other people. And I do think I feel better. If I'm honest, I feel better and better when we sit in these chairs because I feel like it's less and less. It just doesn't feel. It feels less and less like a performance and more just like a dialogue.
Yeah.
And even I just want to say like I'm really thankful to be in it with you. Thankful that we get to. And we have some conversations in front of a camera, but we have a lot more conversations not in front of a camera. And that journey has like been really important to me in my life, and I hope in yours as well. Yeah. And then every once in a while we kind of get to invite other people into that conversation. And I know my heart with it is the same as yours, that we really don't want people to hear us as we talk. Yeah. As we talk, we're hoping that people hear from God. Yeah. And so no, I'm excited about it, excited for today, and excited to dive in.
Yeah, same. I think the thing that I would just tell you, thanks for these principles, and then even better practice of how to apply these things that we've been talking about in our lives. You know, it's been incredible to sit here and talk about it. Yeah. And I feel like a student. I'm sitting here writing, taking notes as you're talking. And, but it's really even more incredible to try to put these things into practice and try and fail. Yes. And then, you and I have talked a little bit more and more about, okay, just the process of growth and so forth. And I just hope that you guys that are listening, that y'all feel the same way that I feel of just getting to try these things out. And really, when you first talked about us doing this podcast, you said, hey, let's create a podcast for men who are trying. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I know that's getting to see that, have a front row seat and seeing that in your life. And I'm trying as well. It's just an incredible thing. So we talked a little bit about, hey, let's slow down today on this podcast. And let's talk about some things we've already talked about before. And maybe there's some areas we can double click on and go a little bit deeper. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think definitely in the double clicking for the sake of not only are we understanding what the Lord is saying, but are we applying it? Yeah. And probably if I've erred on the side in my life, it's like I've heard a lot of truth and probably not applied enough of it. Yeah. And growth in my life or maturity for each one of us is really contingent on obedience to truth, not just knowing or hearing it. And so I think I really think it would be a well-spent podcast to like drill down a little bit, not just on the principles, but practice and trying to apply them. And one of the conversations we had, I think a couple weeks ago now, was we were just dialoguing about feeling like, oh man, like shouldn't I be past this by now? You know, like why am I know I get it, but like I still am getting it.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's a frustration, I think, inside of me, and I think this is common to most men, that is the frustration of like, why am I not past this by now?
Yep.
Or I know this, but clearly I don't really know it because I'm not actually living it, or I'm not experiencing the fruit of it. And I do think you can get at the spot where you just then say, you know what, like I guess I'm just not good at this. And you just quit trying because you're tired of failing.
Yeah.
Or you have to kind of like drill into it and be like, all right, well, I'm just going to try again and try again. And there's this book that we talked about that is called The Talent Code.
Such a good book.
And there's, do you remember the author of it? I should
Oh
have
my
looked
goodness.
it up. Daniel Coyle.
Yeah, Daniel
That's
Coyle.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Just I asked you and they came here after that. So Daniel Coyle also wrote The Culture Code, which is a phenomenal book as well. The Talent Code basically deals with what's the neuroscience behind talent. And so much of it's talking about the presence of myelin in your brain, which is what insulates a neural pathway in the same way that you insulate a wire, and electricity can go through it more quickly the better it's insulated. And so that truly talent is really just about the presence of myelin in your brain. And so anybody that's actually talented is only because they've developed a lot of myelin.
Yeah.
And the way that it says even the best way to develop myelin or to develop talent is to practice to the point of failure. And what we were talking about, and I think this is like the crux for me of this episode is what if the thing that we practiced to the point of failure and that we all got the best at, what if our greatest talent as men was to learn how to process through things God's way?
Yeah. That'd be huge.
At the moment of struggle, challenge, and I think we're made for challenge. I really don't. I know that sometimes we're like, oh man, this challenge is great or it's difficult. But at least for men, I don't think men actually want to live life unchallenged.
No.
I think that's boredom.
Yeah.
Now, we don't always know how to go through challenges, but I think there is something inside of us that I call it say I won't. You know, that's like, that, there's a little bit of say I won't in all of us. And some people have a little bit more say I won't than other people, that's like oh, you can't do this. And you're like, oh, say I won't.
Yeah.
And so I do think there's something inside of every man that wants to be challenged. And how we respond to that challenge, if we will try.
Yeah.
And try things God's way, even to the point of failure, realizing that failure is not the end of something.
Yeah.
Failure is the beginning of learning.
That's a really good,
and to learn it more and more.
Yeah.
And so, whether you talk about it with a baby that's learning how to walk, how many times does a baby fail before they succeed?
Yeah.
And without the failures, without the constant like pull up and back down your butt, pull up and back down, then they would never walk.
Yeah.
And I just wonder how much of that God looks at us as his kids, and we're frustrated as men that are actually probably still boys in a lot of ways, and looks at us and we're like, oh, I'm just so tired of failing. Yeah. And God's like, no, you're learning. Yeah. And I want you to get really good at this. And the only way you're going to get really good at this process is by going through it over and over and over again. Yeah. And what if we could insulate that neural pathway to the greatest talent that any of us have, is processing through things in a way to get from revelation to application and then to what I'll call is probably incarnation. In other words, when we are actually living out the Word of God, the Word has become flesh in us.
Yeah. It'd be game-changing.
Yeah, I think if there is a talent that I would like to have more than anything, and I want to be good at some things. I know you want to be really good at pickleball. I kind of want to be, above average. Yeah. And so there's a lot of things that I think we can set out.
Want to be good at.
And say I really want to be good at that. But man, I think the thing I want to be best at is I want to be best at that.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think the thing that really kind of shifted, and it's such a simple thing, right? But it's like, it's so easy to get caught in this trap and be talking about all these things that like, hey, even just talking through principles that you and I have talked about, right? And then you go through and you practice them and you fail, and then you're just like, oh man. And then you fail again, and you're like, well, I'll never get this right. Like maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe whatever, you know, the enemy starts to whisper those things in you.
Yes.
But it's almost like what I hear you saying, Matt, it's like we need to welcome the failure. And even welcome and say, hey, I want that challenge, you know? We were talking with our youngest kids, this is a couple months ago, and we were talking about prayer. And so one of them got in the habit of saying, God, please help my day just to be good. Help me just have an easy day or a good day is what he was saying.
Yeah.
And so that kind of sparked some conversations. And we laugh about that and we smile, you know.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, a lot of times that's our desire down in our heart, right? It's like, man, I'd like to be able to just go through this day and I just want to crush everything. You know, challenge comes up, I got it, whatever. But what you're talking about, to build that myelin, we have to go to the point of failure.
Yes.
So we almost need like these opportunities to build faith, to be able to build these, you know, cycles that we talk about of coming back and saying, okay, I doubted God for a minute. I'm repenting of that. I'm remembering who you are. I'm remembering who you've called me to be.
Yes.
And I'm going to act now in obedience, right?
Yes.
And but we need to get those reps to build that myelin is what you're saying, I think.
Yeah,
right?
and basically the premise even of the book that I think this resonates in Scripture is that if all that you practice is practice what you're good at, you'll actually never get better at anything.
Yeah.
The only way you really get better at something is practicing to the point of failure. Now, if you only welcome failure and it's like, okay, I've failed, and so then you take it on as identity.
Yeah.
And you say, I failed, so therefore I am a failure, which is, I think, again, what a lot of people end up doing is when they fail a couple times, then they internalize that as an identity versus just realizing that they weren't meant to internalize that as identity, that instead God's trying to shape a new identity in them through the process. And, you know, I'm just thinking about like what Paul says is, you know, he says, I'm working out my salvation with fear and trembling. And I do think we operate right now in probably a Christian culture that is treating salvation pretty casually, and most of the time referring to it as a past tense thing.
Right,
you know, like,
it's something you did.
Yeah, I got saved at 5,
right.
or, you know, I got saved at 7 or 12 or 15, and most of the time it's talked about as a past tense thing that is mostly surrounding a prayer of surrender.
Yeah,
that is probably ended up being focused on a moment of stopping activity versus truly what Paul is saying is he's saying, I work out my salvation. In other words, like salvation is not an act of inactivity. It's an exercise of right activity that I'm like always being made better through it. And I work out my salvation through fear and trembling. In other words, like I think what Paul's saying is like, I realize I'm getting better and better at this, at this salvation thing. And really, you can't actually talk about salvation in a biblical context without talking about it in 3 tenses.
Okay.
Because there is a part of it that we could say, oh, I was saved. Okay. At whatever age you could say maybe surrender then is called salvation.
Yeah.
Okay. But you couldn't say it as complete that it's called salvation because it's not just past tense. It also has to have a present tense attached to it that is, I'm also being saved.
Yeah.
And I do think that is a constant challenge. It's just the greatest challenge of our lives.
Yeah.
And we are meant to be getting better and better at being saved.
Yeah.
And then there's another part of it that is also future tense, you know, that is, and on the day of judgment, I will be saved.
Yeah.
And to talk about it as one of any of those, I think is incorrect biblically, but then also experientially, it robs you of a whole life with Christ because and I do think this happens with men. You go through your whole life saying, well, I got saved at this age, and whether it's because I prayed a prayer and the pastor said you're saved, which I don't think a pastor gets to tell you whether you're saved or not. I don't think any one human gets to tell another human whether they are saved or not. I think we can probably have an assurance of our own salvation, But I think if we only deal with it as I prayed this prayer, somebody else said I'm saved, and so now that's the end of my experience with God.
Yeah.
And it ends in inactivity. We actually miss out on the fullness of life that is a life in Christ. Like so much of what I know our desire is for this podcast is not to approach Christ as men with inactivity, but instead to say, God, actually, we're hungry to do something.
Yeah.
And does it really have to be that every time that we hear from you in church that's about, okay, are you ready to get saved? And we say, oh, well, I already am. Or, dang it, maybe I strayed away, and so I need to get saved again, because I've backslid or, I'd rededicate my life. Whatever language we throw at that, it's like, it still is just you're always getting back to this exact same spot, and then there's nothing to do after that. So it's like, do you want to get saved this Sunday? Okay, I see those hands at 3, whatever. Okay, let's pray this prayer together, and and whatever that looks like. But then the only other challenge that usually happens is, okay, now this is what you need to stop doing. And so now if you're saved, now stop doing this. Stop lusting, or stop being greedy, or stop being prideful. Or it's the challenge to things that seem pretty inactive. And so, well, what do I need to start doing? Well, start reading more. Start praying more. Oh gosh, that doesn't seem super active.
No.
And so, so I think like so much of I think God's desire for us is to be men of action and men of right action. And that's where even James says, faith without action is just dead faith. Yeah. So if we can get it to a place of activity, I think we build on salvation in our lives.
Yeah. Do you remember we talked through a little while back, when we get into these places of doubt, you talk through, hey, first it needs to start with the right view of God, then a right view of yourself, right view of others, and then steps of obedience.
Yeah.
Could we walk through that?
Yeah, for sure.
And because I think that plays really well into what we're talking about, because I think so often our issues come into we're just doubting. We're doubting God's goodness. We're doubting his provision that's coming, whatever it may be. And then that doubt can lead us into shame and lead us into distance and so forth. But I would love for you to share that.
Yeah, no, I think that was an incredible conversation. And I mean, in all vulnerability, like I was sharing with you, like just some weakness of faith that I felt like I started off the year with, and some insecurity, that was just like.
See, I thought I was asking you because I was. So we're both there.
Yeah, and
there we go.
And just feeling like, and even honestly remembering like walking in stronger faith or confidence previously, and then all of a sudden being like at the spot of like just feeling insecure, insecure about some things this next year, and like basically, is God going to show up? Like, and I know that He showed up before, like that's clear. But will He do it again? And honestly, just feeling kind of stupid that I would even feel that way. Like embarrassed a little bit. Like before God, a little bit embarrassed to tell you. Like, hey, like, gosh, like I'm struggling in this. And so, I think that was a great conversation. And so what we talked through in that day was, if there is a process to go through, where does it start, and are there steps to it? And I think what we said was, first step has to be to focus on God. And not on our circumstance, not on ourselves, and not on others. And there's probably as much of a not on as there is what on. Because usually in my insecurities, I'm looking, or my lack of faith, I'm looking in one of three directions, if not all three at the same time. I'm looking at myself. I'm saying, like, I don't have what it takes. Like, I don't have enough. Or I'm looking at other people, and whether that's throwing me in a spot of comparison, or it's throwing me in a spot of competition, or in a spot of like, man, I wish I had what Austin has, like, and whether that be in opportunity or in money or whatever, or I'm looking at circumstance. And this is where all of this links back with the conversations that we've been in for the last few podcasts. That is, we've been talking about this idea of peace and purpose.
Yeah.
And how do we live such a life that we don't do one at the expense of others, that we don't elevate purpose and thereby lose peace, and we don't elevate peace and thereby lose purpose. Yeah. And the connecting band between those, I think, is called joy. Yeah. And so the only way to truly exist with joy in our lives is to elevate those two things together. So how do we do that? That's kind of what we're talking about. And then we went down this road that was talking about Sabbath and reframing Sabbath, not just as a 1 in 7, although not to abolish the 1 in 7 principle, but what did Jesus do to fulfill 1 in 7? What is the fullness of that? And it really is like that God set aside a day, called it today. Yeah. And so we kind of talked about what is it take to live Sabbath every day. And then we went kind of the other side of it, that is, if Sabbath is rest, what is work? And what is the right view of work? If we need the right view of rest, we also need the right view of work. And then at some point, we got to marry those two things together to where it's not like you do one and the other, you elevate both of those. Yeah. It's kind of where we're at in the journey, right? Yeah. And so that focus thing about first focus on God and who He is. Okay, that's where we said, like, we've got to start there. That matches definitely up with all of that stuff from Hebrews that we've talked about before, Hebrews 3 going into 4. That's all of the Israelites' journey, not just out of Egypt, but through the desert into the promised land. Was what did they need? Anytime that they took their focus first off of God and they looked at their enemy, they were outside of God's will. Yeah. When they looked at themselves, well, we look like grasshoppers in our own eyes. Yeah. Why? Because we're looking at ourselves. Yeah. And that's where Hebrews 4 says they had the same gospel preached to them as we've had preached to us, but they just didn't combine it with faith. Why? Because they were looking not at God. And so what should they have looked at, and even what should I have looked at? In that moment of insecurity, I should have been able to look backwards and say, this last year, God, you did all of that. You not only healed me, which He did, like incredibly, Austin. Like I was like deeply, deeply, deeply hurt. Like hurt by more people and more than I ever have been in my life. Like deeply, deeply hurt. And like the supernatural healing power of God healed me really quickly. And it was God. It wasn't me. Yeah. And it wasn't anybody else. Yeah. Did I play a role in it? Yeah. I had to lay on the surgeon's table and not blame other people and not hold on to unforgiveness. I had to lay there and say, God, like, I'm broken, I'm hurting, and you are the great physician. Can you stitch me up, And He did. And it was Him. And then even in provision, I had to look at what I should have done and I did this, but like, I want to get better at it. I want to get quicker at it. Is to look back and say, man, even in provision, God, like, how is it that I got fired this last year and yet my family's been better provided for than we ever have? Wow. That was you, God. Yeah. Because you are Jehovah Jireh. That's not just a name. It's like you've shown yourself to be that. And not just last year, like actually my whole life. Yeah. But what happened? I got my eyes off of that, and I started thinking, oh, well, no, like, what happened is like I did this, or man, I had some really great people in my life that really came around me, and so kind of I did this, or these people did this, and God was like, no, I did it. Yeah, it's me. And whoever I was yesterday is the same that I am today, and it's the same that I will be tomorrow. Anyway, do you remember anything else we talked about with that? Like, as far as like, what is it that helps us in that first moment? Yeah. To not like go down the road of disbelief or go down the road of insecurity or weak faith, but to like, how do we catch it quicker?
Yeah. And I'm trying to remember if we've talked about this on the podcast, but I think one of the things that I've really wrestled with in the past year is I came to the realization that I had this belief inside of me, or this fear inside of me, that God wasn't really good.
Yes.
That, I think at the end of the day that, hard things happen, and there's challenges. We live in a broken world, and, our response is to just try to trust God and believe and get through it the best we can, but not truly believing that he's a good father. Yes. And that he has good for us, and that he wants good for us. And so I've really had to wrestle that down this past year. And I'm still wrestling and working that. I'm still rooting some of those old, ways out. But in so many of our conversations, we've come back to that. But that's in the conversation you and I were talking about. It was like, the thing you told me is like, hey, Austin, you have to start number one with who is God. Because if you have the wrong view of God in these moments of doubt and insecurity and lack of belief, and you start off wrong there, it doesn't matter what you go and you start remembering everything else. You're already off base. And so, man, I just think, to me, that is just such an important piece of, like, man, it's so easy to slip into this path of like, hey, we've got to do these things for God. We got to earn God's love. And we got to, even though we know, like, even when we verbalize that, we say, that's not who God is. No, but there's still things within us, that in our flesh, that wants to, put God into that box, and that's
Without
reality.
a doubt.
Yeah. So,
well, I remember thanks for, because I remember that. And even we talked about A.W. Tozer.
Yeah.
Has like this incredible quote that says, basically says, the most important thing about every individual is what you think about when you think about God.
Yeah. Yes.
That's the most defining thing of every human, is what you think about when you think about God. In other words, your God concept is the lens that you look through to view reality.
Yeah.
And if we think about it, like, if the lenses that I have on, especially if I don't know I'm wearing glasses, but I am, right? And those glasses are really askew, you know, like they're really twisted or perverted.
Yeah.
Then your perception is reality to the perceiver.
Yeah.
Even if it's not actually real.
Exactly. Yeah.
It still is your reality.
Yeah.
And so, and I remember sharing just that having this God, and really what I would call that is a God concept, you know, like, what is your image of God? And if there's another quote that says, God made man in his own image, and then man returned the favor. And so we make a God that is like us. Yeah. And so if we can't imagine forgiving somebody else more than a few times, then surely God's not going to forgive me more than a few times. Yeah. And so we make God in our image. And God is not made in our image. No. We're meant to be made in his. And so it has to go back to, like, what is our God concept? And and I remember you sharing that specifically, that is almost growing up with this, not just sense, but a declaration over you that, you know what, it's always just going to be hard. Yeah. Yeah. And living for God is just this. It's just getting hard through it. Yeah. Because it's always going to be hard. Yep. And it's kind of just, life sucks, and then you die. Yeah. And thankfully you die, because then you get to ride the chariot into glory, like, and it's like such an escapist theology that where does abundance of the Lord fit in that? Yeah, it doesn't. Or freedom in Christ, or like and it doesn't. But that, and you can sit there and say, oh, I know the verses, right? Yeah. But that doesn't mean it's your reality until you change your lens. Yeah, the lens, that's the key right there. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I do think everybody sees God not for who he is. Mm-hmm. The journey of our lives, I would say, is to have that lens that all of us look through be less and less deceptive. Mm-hmm. Like, we're trying to remove the lies from the way that we see God. And the more that, like, that lens that we're looking through becomes more clear and less perverse, then not only do we see God better, but then when we look at the world around us, we actually see it through his eyes. Yeah. And then when we look in the mirror, we see ourselves through his eyes.
Yes.
But if we don't start with that view of God, like what is
Yeah.
our God concept? Yeah, we
Yeah.
probably try to start not at the beginning.
And I would even tie that into some of the conversations we've had in regards to prayer of taking it less about, what I need and my circumstances into just, God, you are good.
Yes.
God, you love me so much. God, how much more does our Heavenly Father, and really building those really neural pathways, right? Around this thought of like, hey, like we have a good Father who loves us and wants good for us. But if that can reshape and that, because that then goes from this inactive prayer life to this like, hey, I'm going to go, I'm doing like a workout with my brain here, right? And I'm restructuring, rewiring my brain to believe the real truths about God and get the earthly, fleshly stuff out, or the things that, our environment has told us, this is who God is.
Yes, and it does it like that. If we call it rewiring neural pathways, the Bible word for that is actually repentance.
Yeah.
It is to literally think differently.
Yeah.
And those aren't two different things. So like, all these people that are like doing all this neuroscience stuff now, I don't think we ever have to be like threatened by that.
No.
All they're doing is proving the Bible true.
Exactly.
They're proving God true.
How cool is that?
Yeah, it really is.
So
It's
cool.
absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And this is what I believe. I believe that every ology is actually theology.
Yeah.
Whether it's psychology or sociology, brain science, whatever it is, every biology is the study of life.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like the more you study life, in other words, the more you study what God made, you're going to understand God a lot more if you see it through the right lens.
Yeah.
And one of the guys that not only invested the most into my life, but as far as people on this earth that lived out what I believe is true Christianity the most clearly in front of me, his name was Dick Schroeder. And he did this entire like teaching, you could call it teaching, but teaching is not enough. It was an impartation. It was like, it was something that it was an anointing that was in him and on him. And there's teaching that was associated with it, but it was like when you were around Dick Schroeder, you knew the Father more.
Wow.
And it was an impartation of the Father heart of God is what he would kind of how you talk about it. Like, can we know God as Father, but not just as like some distant, but like as the Father that he says that he is the good Father. Mm-hmm. And so there's this whole part of the teaching, and it's something that from the very first time that I heard it, Dick asked me, he's like, I want you to not just listen to this, Matt, for the sake of receiving it. I want you to like internalize it so you can pass it on to others. And it's something that not only has marked my life as far as changed me, but it's really marked my ministry, like for like a few decades now. But a big part of it is like trying to see where have I seen God wrongly.
Okay.
And really trying to examine your own God concept. And so like there's there's a little bit of it that is kind of utilizing some different examples. Like if you view God as like a Star Wars God, okay, that is God is a nameless, faceless force.
Yeah.
That's like powerful in the way that the Force in Star Wars is powerful, but it's nameless and faceless, and it's kind of just with some people more than others.
Yeah,
and
you
everybody,
either got it or you don't.
everybody, kind of has it, but like then, if your midichlorians are really high, then like you have like more access to it. And there's also, it kind of has a good side and a dark side. And so like Satan, of course, is on the dark side of the Force, and and so anything occultish is like really just the dark side of the Force, and there's the light side of the Force, and that's a God concept. And most of the time, our God concept is actually tied either to our parents, and it can be either one of them, father or mother, and or spiritual authorities in our lives, because they're trustworthy voices growing up. Not just in what they said, but how they interacted with us. Yeah. And so even, for example, if like you kind of have a Star Wars God image of God that's like this nameless, faceless force, you probably had a pretty authoritarian dad that was like not weak, or a parent figure that was not weak, and they were like definitely, but wasn't very present. And so then you take that and you say, okay, God, so you're Father and you're a heavenly Father. So that means whoever my parents were, you're just a bigger version of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that creates this like nameless, faceless force that you're trying to interact with. And so what do you miss out on then that? Well, you miss out on intimacy.
Yeah.
Because how do you become intimate with nameless, faceless?
Yeah.
And so your experience is based in your perception. And so you can go through your whole life relating to God not as who he is, but as who you've made him to be.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different wrong concepts of God.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. Well, the second thing we talked about then in that was your concept of God and how you view God, right, in the circumstances and throughout all of your life. But then also specifically talking about this was, okay, viewing yourself.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
So when you look back, what role did you play in the ways that God was faithful? And because there's action to faith, right?
Yeah.
And so,
no, I think there's two errors in that. I think that's what we talked about. There's two errors, one on each side.
Yeah.
Okay. There's the error of thinking too little of yourself, and just, looking at yourself and saying, well, I can't, I'm not good enough, I don't have what it takes. And that's all rooted in insecurity or shame. And that is the voice of the accuser. It's always trying to tell us like, no, Matt, like you don't have what it takes. You're not good enough. You can't do this. To where even if I want to commit to something with God, he's constantly trying to say like, you're not, you can't. And and then on the other side of it is another error of pride. It's just the pride of arrogance. That sometimes I've looked back and I've said, man, I did really good. And because I did so good,
I can do it again.
Then that's what happened, and I can do it again.
Yeah.
And that's where God's like, nah, it's like, don't think, this is what Paul says, don't think more highly of yourself than you ought.
Yeah.
And so there is a reality in between those two fallacies that is who God says that we are. And if we think too low of ourselves, we diminish his image inside of us. If we think too high of ourselves, then we actually smear his power and we try to make his power ours. And so it's like, so I could look back on last year and say, man, like there's a lot of really good stuff that happened in spite of some great challenges. I did awesome.
Yeah.
And the more that you look back and say, I did awesome, the more you'll feel the weight going forward of, oh gosh, like that's a lot to carry.
Yeah.
And you'll go through it, I think, with a lot of stress.
Yeah.
Or you'll go through it, in such a way that's like you do everything at the expense of others and also at the expense of your relationship with God.
Yeah.
So I think there's probably two sides to that.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that stood out to me when we were talking through this was just the concept of asking God to show you, okay, what steps of obedience did you call me to that I took in this?
Yeah.
And so often God says, hey, I want you to go do this. I want you to take a step. You got to obey. You have to listen and obey, right?
Yes.
Now, don't worry about the rest. I'm going to take care of the rest, but I'm asking you to take the step here. And so often for me, I can kind of forget that and be like, man, I swing the pendulum. I either say, well, I didn't do anything, and I think that's what you just said, right?
Yeah.
Or I did it all,
Yeah.
And really the reality is like, okay, we had a role to play if we obeyed God and followed, his direction. And properly remembering that, I think, is really huge.
Okay, so if we're at the spot of insecurity or challenge, lack of faith, failure, if we start at, God, will you remind me who you are, or reveal to me more who you are, then that would probably need to be followed by confession.
Yeah.
That is, God, like I'm saying, confession is not always about like, God, I've messed up in this sin again. Confession is just telling the truth and telling the truth first about who God is. And so, God, you are my provider, and you always have been provider. Whether I look in the Bible, I look back in my life, you have always taken care of me. This is who you are. And then, secondly, looking at self. And I think that clarity you just gave there is important. It's like, what is the line, or what is the middle line of that road that has two ditches on it?
Yeah.
And that middle line of that road is, where have I been obedient before? Because my obedience does trigger God's faithfulness. And it's not that God's not faithful.
Yeah.
Ever. God's always faithful.
Yeah.
But my obedience is what initiates it. It's what lights the fuse to God's faithfulness. And it's like such a small thing relatively, but it's actually the thing that initiates it. And so I think that's a great clarity, Austin, to look back and say, God, will you help me to know where I was obedient to you? And what did I do in response to who you are?
Yeah.
What was my action that was faith action, believing in who you are? And then I'm going to try and do that thing again.
Yeah.
Because I want to reinitiate, I want to relight a fuse for this next circumstance. And I think that's super important.
And I think that's a really good word picture, because the fuse is the smallest part.
Yes.
If we think of it in terms of, I love fireworks. I have 4 boys. You
Sure.
have 5.
No, my boys
it's
look
like,
forward to
But that's not the show, right?
Right.
The fuse just gets it started.
It's not the power.
No.
But it does initiate the power.
Yeah.
And it's the power. It's the show. God is all those things.
Yeah.
Man, what a beautiful thing. God is like the most amazing firework display ever.
That's right.
And he lets us be the fuse.
Yeah. Lets us be. How cool is that?
Yeah.
Man,
to initiate it.
Yeah.
And I do think he waits on us to initiate it. In other words, he won't blow up or show off until we obey.
Yeah. Okay, so there was another point, and I think this one was really good too. It was the right view of other people in those circumstances, right?
Yeah.
So can you expand on that a little bit? Because I think this is an area as well that, especially if you're dealing with insecurity or lack of faith, it's really easy to look to other people and say, hey, what can they do? How can they, help me out? How can they provide, some stability or whatever?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I think, honestly, I can't remember all that we talked about, Austin, so you're probably going to have to help me through this a little bit, because I think there was a lot that came out in the conversation that I'm a little bit struggling to remember right now. But I do know that there's a part of it for me, like in vulnerability, when I was looking back, that I was like, man, I've got some really great friends who love me really well. And it was like, but they're probably getting tired of me, probably getting tired of looking after me and taking care of me and loving me. And there was just a lot of sympathy that I got. And their sympathy is going to run dry. And that I was looking at others in the wrong way in that circumstance.
Yeah.
And so there's probably a part of looking at other people that is about dependency on other people.
Yeah.
Or codependency.
Yeah.
That's wrong. That would be the fallacy. There's probably another side of it that is looking at people in independence is probably the other fallacy that's like, well, I can do this without anybody.
Yeah.
And I think the center line on the road that has two ditches, codependency and independence, probably the center line is probably called interdependence. That is living a life interdependent on one another as we are all dependent on God.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's really good. I think there's been so many times, especially when Ash and I were building the business, where, we'd have these kind of inflection points where, God would bring a person into our path and they'd be such a blessing, such a gift, but it's easy to look back on those seasons and say, well, that person did all of this and provided this little forward or whatever.
Yeah.
And having the right view of that, of giving them the credit. Yeah. But God's the one that brought them, you know? Because I think for me at least, what can tend to happen then is okay, well, God, I just need you to bring these people. I need you to do this. I need you to do that. And it's still what ends up happening if we say, okay, there's a fuse and then there's this rocket, and then I don't know what the next phase of this is here in this, but I'm compressing the amount of what God is really doing in this story.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
And we'll have to think of a better analogy for that, but really trying to compress it on saying, okay, I did something, these other people did something, and God did a little bit right here in the middle, you know, and not believing that He's going to do the work, you know.
No, I think about it like yesterday we were out at your house and you're getting ready to build a fire pit, and we're in the barn, and Cruz walks by, you know, and he's just like he's out there with his little Crocs, you know.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful day.
Yeah.
The sun was shining. He's just cruising along, and dude, Cruz is so cute, man. He's like just walking along, and
shoulders back, just
And so we go out there, and you're like, "What are you doing, little Cruzy?" And he's just cruising. And
literally,
you're like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I was gonna help you build that fire pit."
Yeah.
And there's so much of that I feel like was the picture of how God looks at us, you know. That's just like, and can Cruz do any of it without you?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Doesn't have the know-how.
Yeah.
Doesn't have the materials. Doesn't have the strength. And yet, like, his desire in walking out there initiated you guys doing that together.
Yeah.
And, I think for me, Austin, I don't want to do anything alone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't like being alone.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be wrongly dependent on other people.
Yeah. I think that's the key there. Yeah.
And I want to give God everything that's His, and realize, and this has been so good for me through like this last couple of years, is I feel like God's given me more vision than I've ever had in my life.
Wow.
Okay. For more stuff.
Yeah.
I've had more ideas, more like, and we've had some of these conversations, and at times it's like gets pretty overwhelming. Like just to think about, I'm like, oh man, how am I going to do all that?
Yeah.
And then I hear God as my Father saying, oh yeah, you're not going to do all that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You're just cruise.
Yeah.
You're just cruising. And you're just showing up and saying, hey, Dad, I want to be part of it.
Yeah.
Because you gave me the
so
idea.
Good. Yeah.
Like you told me, Dad, that you're going to go build a fire pit. And I'm just here. I just showed up. I'm in my Crocs, and I just showed up in the sunshine.
Yeah.
And that's like super good for my heart.
That is really good.
Because then here's the other thing it does for me is it makes me really open to the fact that God is doing the same thing in somebody else.
Oh yeah.
It's like, oh God, if I'm not doing this, but you are, then you're going to talk to a lot of your sons about this.
Yeah.
And so then
really
what
good.
I can just be aware of is the fact that like you're all of our dad.
Yeah.
And so there's some people that are really good at stuff I'm not good at all.
Yeah.
I mean, even like Mitchell and Michael, I mean, these guys are sitting right over here, and I don't know how to do anything that they're doing. And yet this thing doesn't happen without them.
Yeah.
And now, honestly, both those guys could sit over on this side of it, and they do great. True. Okay, like they would be awesome.
Yeah.
But we couldn't sit over there and do what they're doing. So there's so much of that I realize God is like, no, I've got somebody for that.
Yeah.
And so if there's something you find that's like, I'm trying to do what you want me to do, God, and I don't want to do it alone. I'm not trying to do it alone. But there's something here that it's not who I am, but it is something that's still who you are. Then that does mean God has a kingdom partnership. We just talked about a meeting I had yesterday with a friend of yours. Yeah. It's like it was so sovereignly ordained, and it was like the right timing, and there is like some kind of partnership that's going to come out of it.
Praise God.
But I think that's what also makes it so like if we engage with God rightly in it, then there is no competition on this earth.
Yeah.
We just go around trying to complete people as we complete what God is like put in front of us.
Yeah. That's so good.
Yeah.
What a great word picture too.
No, I love it.
We
like,
got to be the
man. honestly, even like God, like help that to be.
Yeah.
God, I want that to be not just this year, but Lord, I don't know how much longer I have left on this earth, but like I just want every day to be like that. God, to just be. I want to stand in your sunshine, and I just want to be like that. I thought we were going to build a fire pit today, and I don't know even what all goes into that, but I know that you do, and I want to do it together with other people. And God, I pray that even right now, like whenever somebody's listening to this, like that they will feel and sense like this drawing from you that is the invitation into activity that is your activity.
Yes.
And if they feel insecure, that you would remind them, no, it's not about you. It's not about what you can do. Now, you're going to do some stuff, and it's going to initiate some things that I'm going to do. And God, in all of it, I pray that you draw every person that's like listening to this or interacting with it. Would you draw them into the place of intrigue, of curiosity, of activity, of obedience, and then also draw them together with each other. God, I believe that you want to align the hearts of men with each other for kingdom partnership, not partnership that makes money, but partnership that builds your kingdom, the higher value, Lord. And so, God, just draw us into that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the next step? Help me out. Like, where are we at? So look at God.
Look at God.
Look rightly at self. Look rightly at others.
Yeah. And then the last one is taking steps of obedience.
Oh, yeah. Well, there we go. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, and I think what we talked about with that is sometimes we can sit probably way too long and keep on asking questions that are the wrong questions. It's like, but God, what after that? Or, but what's the destination? What will happen later? But give me a guarantee about this thing. And God's just saying, no, I gave you a step of obedience, and I'm not going to give you anything else until you take that step. And the steps of a righteous man are ordered by God. And so until we take one, God's probably not going to give us two. He's definitely not going to give us 5 or 6. And that is probably something that I've been guilty of just maybe because the step of obedience doesn't seem significant enough. Or because I'm not trusting that if I take that step, there will be another. And to tie that back in again with where we've been, I think that's the Jericho part of this, or the take the step into the Jordan. Put the ark of God on your shoulders, take one step into the Jordan at flood stage. It's like, but what next? You don't know. But if you do this one step, then I will reveal every step after that. If you take one step marching around Jericho, then but what happens when we get to the end of the 7th day?
Wait and see.
Wait and see. And the story looks so beautiful in hindsight. It's like, of course that's what God did. But like they had no idea.
No.
And even the way that God did it, like I somebody might argue with me on this, but I think even the way that's written in Hebrew there is like, it's actually not even that the walls like crumbled into a pile. It's like the language that's used there, I think, is they fell beneath themselves.
Wow.
So even, it's not even just about this fortified walled city was like just kind of crumbling. It says the walls fell beneath themselves and then they went straight in. This language that's used. And so if it was just crumbling walls, you still had to crawl over all the stones. You don't go straight in. And so even God's promise was better than they could have ever expected. And I think that's where obedience is the belief that has action with it that rests in God's outcome.
Without the guarantee of
just God, I don't know. And I don't know, but God, you know the outcome. My place is obedience. And and that is the journey. And that is actually, to tie back in, that is also the neuroscience, that is, if we can get from insecurity or challenge to obedience, how quickly can we get, and I do think we have to pass through each one of those steps. That is the wiring that each one of us as men need in our brains. We need to get from, okay, I experience a challenge, hardship, suffering, difficulty. What's first?
Yeah.
Right view of God.
Yep.
What's second? Right view of self. What's third? Right view of others. What's fourth? First step of obedience.
Yeah.
Can we just get good at that?
Yeah, let's get good at it.
Let's make that our greatest talent. And let's keep on practicing to the point of failure.
Yeah.
And not being defeated by failure.
Yep.
But instead of learning through failure. Yeah. And let's fail together.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
That's so good.
I love it.
I love it too.
Okay, so next time, God willing, we're going to kind of pull some of this stuff together in one picture, okay? That is peace and purpose, Sabbath and work, and then, kind of this whole journey with how do I look backwards right, look present right, look forward right, into one picture that we're going to call it the circle of Sabbath. And I'm a picture person. Like pictures help me in my mind to remember stuff to where I can interact with them over and over again. So God willing, next time we'll talk about the circle of Sabbath and bring a lot of this stuff together.
Man, so good. Thanks for rehashing.
Dude,
some of
I love this.
And,
This is
and,
great. So much enjoy it. Yep.
Man, we love you guys. I just hope that y'all found or finding the value that I'm finding in this. And I just think, if you don't know Matt personally, one of the things, and I think I've said this before to you, and I don't know if I've said it here, but you're a man who's at peace. And that is so attractive in a world where we're in a world where people are just trying and striving and but you're at peace and because you put these things into practice. And I think it's because you built that myelin around going through these cycles that we've talked about.
You, Lord.
And so,
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love you, dude. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. See you next time.
We'll see you guys next time.